What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is iRate Reviews, the show where I go over a comic book, go over its details for writing, art, give you an impression of the story, and what I really think about it. So to start off with, we're going to go with Batman the Red Death #1. So this is a one-shot created as part of the DC Dark Knight's Metal crossover, which is being helmed by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, but this is a one-off standalone issue that's been written by Joshua Williamson, and let's just dive right in. So what we see is we actually see Earth -52. So it's not Earth 52, it is the inverse of Earth 52. So where we have the standard multiverse, now we have the dark or negative multiverse. So we see the Flash kind of running all over the place, and then ultimately we find him coming face to face with his antagonist, which just happens to be this Earth's Bruce Wayne Batman. Here's the thing, though. This isn't just any Batman. He happens to be wearing the glasses of Captain Cold. He's got the gun of Mirror Master, and what he insinuates after, actually tells the Flash specifically, is that he has lost the rest of his family, and he needs the Speed Force. He's looking to go back in time or make whatever kind of modifications that he really needs to make. Maybe he's not trying to go back in time at all. Maybe he just wants to be faster so that way he can help more people. But either way, whether Barry Allen helps him or not, he is going to get the Speed Force by force if necessary. So as we kind of see this conflict, Batman busts out like this bat tank kind of thing, which is kind of, starts coming after Barry Allen. They end up in this kind of physical confrontation, and then ultimately Batman preys on the one thing that you can always count on for Barry Allen, and that is his compassion. And ultimately just injects him with these nanoparticles that are for cryostasis that are associated with Mr. Freeze, slowing Barry down enough so that way he can knock him out, chain him to the front of the Batmobile, retrofit it with the technology from the Cosmic Treadmill, and find a way to forcibly take the Speed Force from Flash. Does he just extract it from him? No. He just starts driving, using the Cosmic Treadmill's powers to really kind of like drive this Speed Force energy, and then really not necessarily just suck it out of Barry Allen, but essentially disintegrate the man. All the while, Barry is trying to appeal to the best sensibilities of Batman with no success. And out of that kind of culmination and combination, we actually get two people existing in one body at the same time. The vibrations, they seem to be kind of opposed, so that way Barry Allen is still in there talking in these very faint thought bubbles outside of what Bruce is thinking in his internal monologue. And this is probably going to be this dichotomy between those two characters, this forcible combination of Bruce Wayne in this very dark place, and this Barry Allen is going to continue on through the Dark Knight's Metal storyline. And I find that it's pretty interesting. Even though that's the case, and after a wholesale slaughter of all of Batman's biggest villains, you've got the death of Scarecrow as he punches the guy in half. You've got the Riddler strung up like a flayed man on his question marks. There's all these different things that are going on, and Batman doesn't have time to think twice. He doesn't have time to brood. He doesn't have time to examine the consequences of his actions. So this is the vengeful, hurtful, immediate kind of like the real unfiltered version of Batman and what he holds himself back from doing at any given time. And after he's kind of defeated all of his enemies and he's found that he's in a better place and he can achieve the things that he wanted to achieve, the worlds are still colliding, the universe is still collapsing, and he's presented with an offer by a Batman that is currently at that point in time unseen to go to a new world, one that he can kind of remake his own version of Gotham in. And that's where we kind of jump back into our Earth Zero, our prime Earth, where we see Iris and Wally West, they're headed down the street and getting, just having a normal conversation, and then all of a sudden these kind of like meteors fall out of the sky and bring the Red Death with them. And the interesting thing is that while Iris is like super upfront and confrontational with this Red Death character, she's not afraid of anything, Wally is inversely affected. So he no longer has the Speed Force, and it's artificially aging him. So this is a byproduct of being around this particular character that is causing them a really serious amount of pain. And then Barry Allen shows up, and he's pretty much affected in the same way. He's being sucked of all the Speed Force. He's being debilitated until he is saved by a key member of this, kind of storyline, evidently, and that is Dr. Fate. So I'm interested to see where this plays in, because if Dr. Fate's showing up in the Red Death tie-in, maybe he's going to be showing up in Metal. So that's definitely, where we're kind of leaving off. But the final page reveals that the Red Death is kind of taken over Central City and is looking to kind of recreate his Gotham in his own image. So when we get down to the story of it, I really enjoyed the way that this was laid out. While DC's Metal, written by Scott Snyder, is very different, it's very heavy on lore, it's really given a lot of callbacks to various aspects of the DC universe, this one, created by Joshua Williamson, takes the inspiration of the Red Death from the Scott Snyder book and then kind of puts it into play, puts it into practice. What kind of bad day does Bruce Wayne need to have to kind of put him into this mentality where this dark universe would affect him to that level and he would completely abandon these various moral sensibilities? We already know that Batman operates in kind of a gray area, a heavy level of distrust. But if the four of the people that he cares about the most, if his entire Bat family was eradicated in one day, what lengths would he go to? And this is just one possible alternative universe and alternative storyline in regards to that. So I can see that this is extremely plausible. I think that it's extremely brutal how he kind of disintegrates and destroys his friend in the conquest, in the search for the Speed Force, and it really makes you think about these kind of things. It's probably just as entertaining, if not for some readers slightly more entertaining, than the actual DC Metal storyline, and I'd be really interested to see what happens to these characters as a result, as part of the consequences of DC Metal, Dark Knight's Metal, to see if they can kind of stick around a little bit, because there's a lot of real meat on the bone of this to be explored. As far as the art style is frenetic. It's got great kineticism. The movement of the characters, the kind of electric feel of it. You get this very serious sense of what's going on, and the representation of the Speed Force and how it's interacting with Barry Allen is fantastic. I really like the way that this is drawn. I really like the way that everything's kind of laid out. It's a little bit haphazard. The lettering is a little bit, I want to say that it's a little bit hard to kind of make out. It's very specific to a particular character that is speaking at this point in time, but it's meant to carry on a theme or a motif. And I find that everything kind of gels correctly. It's just that it's just a little bit on the tough side, but that doesn't really take away from the overall experience of the book, because the visuals are just stunning. I mean, the color characterizations of these various, worlds, these characters, the chaos that's kind of unraveling, and then the much brighter, nicer version of Central City that we come to. It's just a really great visual puzzle that fits together really well. So overall, The Red Death, Batman the Red Death #1 is definitely a book that I have to recommend for people. If you haven't picked it up, definitely go to your comic book shop and check it out. It's one that you're going to want to grab. And this really gives me great indications as to where the rest of those one-shots are going to go, almost pushing them into must-buy territory. But I want to know what you guys think too, so hit me up in the comments down below so we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything having to do with the world of comics.